The summer I turned 18 was supposed to be my gateway to freedom. School was out, and like most teenagers caught between childhood and adulthood, I found myself in that strange limbo where responsibility felt both distant and imminent. My days blended together in a comfortable routine of video games, Netflix marathons, and the simple pleasure of having nowhere urgent to be. The house felt different when my parents were away, bigger somehow, filled with possibilities and the quiet thrill of independence. My parents trusted me with these solo weekends. They'd done it before, and I'd proven myself reliable. Sometimes I'd invite friends over for late-night gaming sessions or movie marathons, but this particular weekend, I was content with my own company. There was something peaceful about having the entire house to myself, about being able to exist in my own space without the gentle intrusions of family life. The evening started like any other. I'd settled into the living room couch, my phone in one hand and the TV remote in the other, lost in a rerun of one of my favorite shows. The familiar dialogue provided a comforting backdrop to my mindless scrolling through social media. Outside, the neighborhood was settling into its nighttime rhythm, the occasional car passing by, the distant sound of someone's television, the gentle hum of suburban life winding down. I wasn't keeping track of time, but when the knock came at the front door, something in my mind immediately registered that it was late. Too late for casual visitors, too late for deliveries, too late for anyone with innocent intentions. The sound cut through the comfortable atmosphere I'd created, sharp and unexpected. I paused the TV, the sudden silence making the knock seem even more intrusive. Rising from the couch, I made my way to the front door, my bare feet silent on the hardwood floor. Something made me hesitate, perhaps some primitive instinct that we all carry but rarely acknowledge. Instead of immediately opening the door, I leaned toward the peephole, that small circular window that suddenly felt like my lifeline to safety. Two men stood on my porch, and immediately, everything about them felt wrong. They wore similar clothing, dark, nondescript outfits that seemed almost uniform in their anonymity. They weren't checking their phones, weren't looking around impatiently like people waiting for someone they knew. Instead, they stood with an unsettling stillness, their posture suggesting they were prepared to wait as long as necessary. My hand hovered over the door handle as I debated what to do. Every instinct told me not to open it, but part of me wondered if I was being paranoid. Maybe they were looking for directions. Maybe their car had broken down. Maybe there was a perfectly innocent explanation for their presence. But the lateness of the hour, their strange stillness, and something indefinable about their demeanor kept my hand frozen. Then they spoke, and their words chilled me more than their appearance had. "Hello, we're here looking to speak with Mr. and Mrs. Ian." The name they used wasn't quite right, I've changed it here for privacy, but they were clearly referring to my parents. The formality of their request, delivered to an empty porch in the middle of the night, felt rehearsed and ominous. I remained silent, pressed against the door, controlling my breathing as if they might somehow hear me through the wood. My heart was beating so loudly I was certain they must be able to hear it. After what felt like an eternity but was probably only a minute, I heard them exchange quiet words I couldn't make out. Then came the sound of their footsteps retreating across the porch. Relief washed over me, but it was short-lived. I expected to hear car doors slamming, an engine starting, the normal sounds of departure. Instead, there was only silence. I strained to listen, pressing my ear to the door, but heard nothing. No headlights swept across the living room windows. No engine sounds faded into the distance. It was as if they had simply vanished into the night. I returned to the couch, but the spell of the evening was broken. I left the TV paused, needing to be able to hear anything unusual. My senses were heightened now, every small sound in the settling house seeming significant. The comfortable solitude I'd been enjoying had transformed into something else entirely, a hyperware isolation that made me acutely conscious of being alone. The minutes crawled by, each one stretched thin by anticipation. Then I heard them footsteps, definitely footsteps, moving around the outside of the house. These weren't the sounds of someone leaving. These were the deliberate, measured steps of someone conducting reconnaissance, someone learning the layout of my home, someone planning their next move. Terror shot through me as I realized what was happening. I ran to the back window, my heart hammering against my ribs. Through the glass, I could see them in the backyard, two dark figures moving with purpose. One of them was opening the fence gate, the small metal latch clicking in the quiet night. They were no longer asking for permission. They were taking what they wanted. I watched in frozen horror as they approached the back door. Even from a distance, I could see them examining it, their hands moving over the frame, testing the lock, assessing their options. Their quiet conversation carried on the night air, but I couldn't make out the words. I didn't need to. Their intentions were clear enough. My phone. I needed my phone. The thought broke through my panic, and I ran to grab it from where I'd left it on the coffee table. My hands shook as I dialed 911, trying to keep my voice steady as I explained the situation to the dispatcher. Two men are trying to break into my house, I whispered, afraid that speaking too loudly might somehow alert them to my exact location. The dispatcher's voice was calm and professional, asking for my address, asking if I was safe, asking if I had somewhere secure to wait. The garage, I decided. It had a separate entrance, and I could lock myself in there. As I made my way through the house, trying to move silently, a loud pop echoed through the building, the sound of the back door giving way. The sound seemed to reverberate through my bones. They were inside. In my home. In the space that had felt so safe and comfortable just minutes before. I could hear their footsteps on the kitchen floor, could track their movement as they navigated through the house with surprising confidence, as if they knew the layout. From my hiding place in the garage, I listened to them move through the downstairs area and then, unmistakably, begin climbing the stairs. Each footstep on those stairs felt like a countdown to something terrible. They weren't searching the main floor for valuables. They weren't grabbing electronics or looking for cash. They were going directly to the bedrooms, to the most private spaces in the house. A door opened upstairs. I could hear the soft click of the handle, the whisper of hinges. Then it closed again. After that, silence. Complete, absolute silence that was somehow more terrifying than any sound could have been. What were they doing up there? What were they waiting for? 10 minutes passed in that horrible quiet. 10 minutes that felt like hours, where every second stretched into an eternity of fear and uncertainty. I sat in the darkness of the garage, clutching my phone, afraid to move, afraid to breathe too loudly, afraid to do anything that might draw their attention. When the police finally arrived, their presence announced by the sweep of headlights and the slam of car doors, everything changed in an instant. The silence upstairs shattered with the sound of rapid footsteps and raised voices, the two men arguing with each other in sharp, urgent tones. The calm, methodical intruders had become panicked fugitives in the span of seconds. I heard the back door bang open again as officers entered the house, their heavy boots and authoritative voices filling the space that had been so eerily quiet. Another officer appeared at the garage door, helping me outside, his presence solid and reassuring after the nightmare of the past hour. The arrest happened quickly and quietly. The two men offered no resistance, but more unsettling than their compliance was their complete silence about their motives. They didn't claim to be lost. They didn't pretend they were looking for someone else. They didn't offer any explanation at all for why they had targeted my house, why they had asked for my parents by name, why they had broken in and then simply waited upstairs. In the days and weeks that followed, as police investigated and lawyers got involved, the lack of answers became almost as disturbing as the original incident. It was clear they hadn't come to rob us. Nothing was missing. Nothing had been disturbed beyond the broken door. They hadn't been armed in any conventional sense. They had simply broken into our home and positioned themselves in the upstairs bedrooms, as if they were planning to wait there indefinitely. The most chilling realization was that they seemed to know my parents' schedule. They had come when my parents were out of town, but they had asked for them by name. Had they been watching our house? Did they know about the regular trips my parents took? Had they been planning this for weeks or months, learning our routines, waiting for the right opportunity? The charges were ultimately limited to breaking and entering. There was no evidence of intent to commit any other crime, no weapons found, no clear plan that could be proven in court. But I knew, and my parents knew, and probably the police knew, that whatever those men had planned was far more serious than simple trespassing. I still think about that night, about the decision I made to stay quiet when they first knocked. Part of me wonders if showing myself at the door might have deterred them, might have convinced them to abandon whatever plan they had. But another part of me, the part that remembers their calm persistence and their methodical approach to breaking in, believes they would have found a way inside regardless of what I did. The image that haunts me most isn't the moment they broke down the door or even the terrifying silence while they waited upstairs. It's the picture of them standing on my porch in the darkness, patient and still, asking for my parents with such formal politeness while planning something I can't even imagine. The contrast between their civilized words and their criminal actions suggests a level of calculation that still makes my skin crawl. I moved away for college not long after that, and my parents eventually sold the house. We never learned who those men were or what they really wanted. Sometimes I wonder if they're still out there, if they've found other families to target, other young people home alone to terrorize. But mostly I try not to think about it at all, try to push away the memory of that night when strangers turned my safe haven into a place of fear, when the simple act of being home alone became a lesson in how quickly everything can change.